It's day 7 of spring. It's a little before 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's a glorious start to the morning, despite the fact that we do have miserable weather predicted ahead. Hello again, I am Jim Bob, and welcome back to Deutz Fahrm here on Gorala. So, over to our fields down below, fields 79 and then 85 and 86. It is finally the start of the planting window for our soybean crop, so we can get that planted into the ground. And then once we've done that, we're going to head back over to the forest field we created, or started creating, and we're going to continue working on our custom forest. Get that up and running at some point today, I hope. At the very least, we'll have the sort of groundwork placed for us to then go ahead and start planting the trees shortly after. So, as you can see, we actually went ahead and planted or ploughed all of this together. We didn't cultivate this little strip. In the end, there was no need, because we're using, same with this field here, it's not cultivated, and nor is the one down there. No need when we're using a direct drill seeder. But this is all one big field now. Obviously, there's a few land breaks in there. You can see we've got the tree there, we've got the power pylons, there's a couple of telegraph poles, and obviously we've got that bank there that splits part of that field completely. So let's go ahead and start putting down our soybean crop. I'm hoping I've got enough seed in here. We can always go back and get more if we need to. But I would like to be able to get this all done in one go if possible. Now, this could be an interesting edge of the field here. We did have some problems with the equipment that we were using when we were doing some contract work on the field on this edge here, because you can see just how uneven this ground is. And I think it was a cultivator we were using was really struggling on this bit. Hopefully this thing will be a little bit bigger, a little bit better over here. I think it is a little bit bigger than the equipment we were using with the contract job, but yeah, I want to try and get this this field done nice and easily if I can. I'm just doing a border around the edge. We're going to run up and down the field. Again, you can see the cedar bouncing around a little bit there, and this is where we rolled the edge back ever so slightly just to get clear of the trees and the rock a little bit better than we were. I mean, they're still pretty close, and that's fine. But before, we were actually right up into the rock and the tree as well. I just wanted to remove that collision between object and equipment. And there you can see, just at the other end of the bank, there's quite a steep drop off just there. There is the rest of the field that we'll be working on. So we're going to do a lap of the entire field just to put a sort of a boundary down. Hopefully I'm not missing anything on that edge. I think I've got everything. And then we're going to run. Actually, I suppose we could just run across the field. It doesn't really matter, I suppose, too much. I'm not quite sure which direction I'm going to run this. I might just kind of freeform it a little bit, see how that works out. There we go. It's a good sized field this. I think we're going to get quite a nice, good yield of soybean off this field, which is important. You know, we have taken out quite a bit of money, a little bit more than I had initially sort of expected and intended to take out. Obviously the additional purchase of that new field by the station to turn into the forest kind of threw a little bit of a wrench into my financial planning. I hadn't originally allocated any funds for that whatsoever, so that has potentially slowed down how quickly we'll get a Series 7. That was something I was hoping to sort of unleash in the summer, but I may still go ahead and get a Series 7 in. I really want one, but with that added expense of that field, I just don't know if I can afford it this year now. I mean, well, technically I can afford it. We know that I can really take out quite a fair bit in terms of the maximum loan on this farm, but I have no desire to do that on this farm as well. I mean, we kind of discussed this last time out, but I'll kind of run through it again in case anyone missed it. We have one farm where, you know, we went really heavy on the loan, and now we're doing the nuggets to kind of help further the expansion of that farm a little bit more. We have another farm where we completely maxed the loan out at 1.5 million, but that farm is actually secure financially and is actually turning a profit every day before we've even started harvesting crops, thanks to the livestock and the placeables that we have there with the orchard. This farm is kind of a little bit different. You know, we don't have a huge debt, and we've got a good number of fields. I mean, they're not massive fields, but they're a decent number of fields, but we do need to keep money in reserve because we don't own a combine, so we need to keep money aside to lease one of those come harvest time. And it's something that's going to have to be paid for over multiple hours. It's not something we can get done in just 1 or 2 hours. It's probably going to be needed for a good 3, 4, 5, 6 hours in total, which is potentially going to be quite expensive. I'm starting to wonder whether it might be cheaper to just buy one. I mean, we're going to need one again next year. We're going to need even a lot more than this year, and I don't want to eat up this year's profits by paying a lot for a combine just to hire one this year to then have to buy it outright next year. You know, would it be better, more cost effective for us to just buy it this year? I mean, you can see we've got quite a few fields, and if you ignore the stuff top of the railway, because, you know, top of the centre line of the map, because that's grass work at the moment, but in terms of other fields, we have field 72, as you can see on the far right. Then we have fields 70 and 78, they're combined into a single field. We have 60, 61 and 62, that's combined into a large crop field. We have 68 and 69, they're combined into a large canola field as well, same as the one above it. We have 76 and 77, they're combined into a single field. And now we have this large field down here as well, so we are talking multiple good-sized fields that are going to need to be harvested, and not all of these crops are going to come in at the same time, and this soybean in particular is going to be lagging behind. So my initial plan had been to lease a combine, but, you know, I'm just realizing now that because we're playing a 9-day season, we're going to have quite a long wait potentially between some of our crops coming in and others. This soybean crop in particular is going to come in quite substantially after everything else. I mean, we've already got most of our crops, if not all of them, that are planted now at stage 1 growth. 1 or 2 fields might even be starting to go into stage 2. And this one hasn't even been planted yet. We're literally just doing the planting right now, as you can see. So if that's the case, then we could be waiting 3, 4, 5 days between harvesting some of our crops, or starting our harvesting and finishing our harvesting, which means not only when we lease are we paying for the hours that we're using it, but we're going to be paying a daily fee on top of that for potentially 5 separate days, 5 separate instances of that daily fee. Now, the daily fee is never particularly high in comparison to the rest of the usage fees. It's certainly a lot cheaper than a per hour fee, but it's still a fee. And because we're on a 9-day season, the crops take longer to go through their growth cycles. What would take on a 6-day season might take 2 days, will take at least 3 days. And when you consider all of the growth stages that crops have to go to, if we've got some crops that are 2 stages ahead, that means we're looking at a potential 6-day difference between one set of fields being ready to harvest and the next. Now, obviously, we are going to have a little bit of flexibility. Oh, and here comes the rain. You can see it's starting to get that little bit of mist and fog. Starting to get a little bit sort of washed out on screen, so the rain is coming right now. What was I saying? Lost my train of thought now. Yeah, potentially we have a little bit of flexibility because the harvest window is exactly that. It's a window. It's not this crop is ready so you must harvest it today. We are going to have a window that we can harvest that crop in, but obviously if we leave it too long, then we run a risk of the crop just withering if we don't harvest it before the window closes. And of course we're playing with the Wales geo, which means, as you can see, it likes to rain a lot. Now, we can't see what the weather's going to be like through towards the end of summer and into autumn. We aren't far enough into the calendar yet to be able to see that. We're not going to be able to see the autumn calendar until summer is almost finished, because again, this is a 9-day season rather than a 6-day that our other 2 farms are on. So the calendar only goes 7 days. So we're not even going to be able to see what the weather's like at the end of autumn until we're part way through autumn. So we have no idea what the weather's going to be like. But because it's the Wales geo, and because it's a very wet, rainy geo, odds are that at least half of the days that we could harvest are going to be wet. And potentially they could be very wet, which means they could be lost as harvesting days. So if we end up with too many fields all stacking on top of each other at the same time, we're kind of screwed, and we're going to lose crop, which means we're going to lose money we can't afford to lose. So I think it's now a question of do I buy a combine outright, or do I just lease one as per the original plan and then pay the daily fee for the number of days that we're going to need it for the entire harvest season? Or do I gamble? Do I lease one and delay harvesting until most of my fields are all ready to go at the same time, reduce the number of days that I'm going to need to lease it for, but become completely at the mercy of a random weather schedule? Oh, it's a tough choice to think about. There's plenty of choices that we've got. We've got 3 distinct choices there. It's a question of which one is going to be the right one. I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to kind of weigh up the cost effectiveness of owning outright against a potential of how much it might cost us to actually lease over that 5-day period. I think delaying the harvest until all the fields are ready is just too risky. Way too risky. If it was the Midwest geo and we had glorious sunny weather, I would just delay the harvest for as long as possible on some of those fields to reduce the number of days we'd actually need it. And there is the rain. Said it was coming. But because this is the Wales geo and it's a wet climate, and it's proving my point by raining, then I think that's just too much of a risk. I really do. So yeah, it's going to be, I think, we either lease it over a 5-6 day period, or we buy it outright, and we need to kind of figure out exactly, roughly, how much we think it's going to actually cost us for that 5 or 6 day period. Only then will we really be able to make an informed decision. So I've whittled on a little bit. We still have plenty of this field to go, and a lot of work to go on the forest as well. So I'm going to shut up for a bit. I'm going to carry on working away, and I will catch up with you soon. Just coming up to one of my first little obstacles here. I could have done that a little bit better. Kind of hard to see with those shadows as well. Let's get the working lights on. Try and get the bit that I missed. Oh, I was trying so hard to avoid clipping the telegraph pole. Mission failed. Ah, well, never mind. There have been plenty of other opportunities to try again. We have plenty more obstacles on the field still to go. Okay, seconds out, round 2. Let's try again to get this a nice clean edge all the way around here without leaving gaps that need to be gone over again, without hitting anything. So far so good. Yeah, I mean that was a fair bit easier. It's quite a large radius little obstacle that we had there, but we've got some smaller ones coming up. And this is, I think, the last obstacle on the field, so once this one is done, it's just straightforward up and down across the field from here on in. And there we go. Mission complete. Right, so nice, straightforward, simple, a little bit of running up and down to finish. Ah, damn it, I clipped it. Yeah, a nice, simple little bit of running up and down now just to finish this field off. And this is pretty much it then. This field is just about done. It's taken a little while, as you can see. I mean, it's a decent size, so it's going to take a fair amount of time to get done, but it is now pretty much done. Just got that one little piece there. And there we go. That is it. Field is done. So that is all of our crops now planted. Take the working lights off, switch back to regular headlights. I'm going to get this back to the farm, get it cleaned, put away, and from there I'm going to head back to the field by the station, field number 47. We're going to continue working on building our custom forest. Just coming up now to our forestry area. As you can see, the Agro Star is still here, has been busy working away. We've got our little entrance way just here that we kind of crafted, and I went ahead and planted some bits of grass in certain areas. We need to start breaking some of this area up. I also made a little bit of a change. It was a little wonky over here, so what I've done is I've created kind of narrowed them up a little bit. As you can see there, really kind of narrowed the tracks a bit, and we've got a little bit of a grass sort of area around here to try and condense this down a bit. I'm going to open this into a kind of a clearing, but it's going to be kind of a grassed clearing, I think. And as we come around here, again, you can see where some of the tracks are a little bit wide in some places, a little bit narrow in other places. Try to kind of overlap it in places. We got some nice, good sort of grass banking between the middle all the way along here. And then these bits where it sticks a lot out on the edge, I'm going to actually try and trim some of those back again by planting grass along the edges of this kind of pathway. You can see here, I've already done a bit of repair work along there just to sort these tracks out a bit. And then as we come up to this section here, you can see I went ahead and created a sort of an exit track over here. And again, this needs to be slightly sort of dealt with a little bit better. But we're getting there. And you can see I've also covered in this area where we didn't have any manure with grass, so that'll grow through. We need to break up this clean edge here because it's just a completely clean edge, and that isn't what we want to see. So for that, we're going to be doing a bit more grass planting just to rough that kind of edge up a little bit. So I'm going to connect up to our seeder. Of course, it's got to nudge it slightly. There we go. Same along here. Again, we need to rough this edge up a bit because it's just too neat. Forests are not, you know, this neat, clean thing like this. So to do this, we're going to be kind of rolling back into the mud a little bit. Now this is in the way, so I am going to move this while we work on this first couple of edges. Just move the aggro star to here, out of the way. There we go. And the kind of plan with this is to just go a little bit kind of free-formy in here. And then everything that's to the left that gets left behind is going to be grassed as well. Like I said, I'm just trying to free-form an actual proper edge with some grass, because there's no way it would in reality be this neat. You can see the seed is getting lifted off the ground by the uneven terrain there. There we go. And then we'll just try and tidy up this track a little bit. There we go, that's better. Let's do the same just here as well. Okay, it's looking better. And again, we need to really kind of roll this corner section in just here. So again, I'm just defining kind of our forest floor, our forest floor here, keeping it this kind of rough kind of shape, trying to mimic that randomness that we see in nature, where we don't see, you know, this perfectly square kind of shape and these perfectly, you know, clean edges all the way along. It is going to be rough, it is going to be quite patchy in places. Same again along here. We won't really see how well this kind of turns out until it's done, until the grass starts growing in. But it gives us a good kind of idea. Let's just turn the seeder off. There we go. We'll lift it up as well, so you can kind of see we've got this area here where trees will be planted in, and we will still be planting stuff where the grass is, but probably nowhere near as sort of in depth. You can see you've got this kind of roughed area. Let's just break up this little piece just a touch if we can. There we go. I kind of like that little spot of floor just showing through the grass just there. I like that. Kind of need to do the same in places on the interior as well. Need to put some blotches of grass, so it's not all just forest floor in here. It needs to have grass patches as well, and they need to be weird shaped. They can't just be nice clean blobs. So we're going to be kind of just plonking the seeder down and turning it on in random places like this, just creating these strange little grass patterns. Again, just to break up the monotony and the solidness of these areas. Like that. It's going to have a little bit of grass there on that edge, like that. I think this is starting to really come to life. But of course the real proof of the pudding, as I say, is going to be once this planted grass that we're plonking down actually starts to grow. That's when we'll really see the the fruits of our efforts, so to speak. Let's get this kind of little patchy splotches like this. Completely sort of random. No discernible pattern or shape to it. Just bits of grass poking through. I think that's probably enough for that bit. We can always come back and add more in the future as well. I don't want to overdo it at this stage when we can't really see the overall effect. But I think we've done a reasonable little job there. Let's do a bit more sort of patchiness through this section here, and I kind of want to try and get it to link in, if at all possible, with the border. It's a little bit splodgier than I was planning for, but never mind. we go. So like that, you can see we've got a nice little sort of island of grass, if you will. Of course, we need to do our work along the path here as well. So let's start working on this. I've got to be really careful here. So that I don't overdo it and take out the tracks that we put in. And once the grass starts to grow as well, the visibility of these tracks is going to change. They're going to become harder to spot. They're not going to be so obvious. Because the grass is going to grow and it's going to start to overwrite parts of these tracks here. Let's try and get a little bit more just in here. Go. So you get the basic idea. I'm going to carry on working on putting a border around the path, and I'll catch up with you in a little while. Just working my way back down the opposite side now. You can see that in places these tracks are starting to look a lot narrower, a lot more focused and a bit more like actual tracks. And the weather's changing as well. The rain has just stopped. As you can see, it's starting to brighten up. That'll make things a little bit easier to see. It has been very overcast for most of our work in here. So the chance to be able to see the sky a little bit clearer and get some better lighting in here is only going to help, and hopefully will make the changes that we've made even more visible. Okay, there we go. That is the border of the path pretty much done. Just got to tidy it up just a little bit over here, and then I'll take you back along the tracks, and you can see what those changes actually look like now that they're applied, and they do quite dramatically transform, you know, the pathway that we've created. They really do change the look of it quite dramatically. So let's turn that off. Zoom out of it so you get a better effect, hopefully. As you can see there, where we've crisscrossed with the tyre tracks, dragging mud across the route, but you can see now that they do look a lot more like actual tracks. There's a couple of places, like just here actually, I just need to tidy this up a bit. It's a bit too fat still. There we go. It's a little bit gone wrong just there, and that's where we went a bit too much on the interior. And then around here, see we have this kind of tracked effect through here. Again, it's a little wide in places, but we will hopefully be using wider equipment through here as well, so we can kind of get away with it. And then around here, and then out the other end. And there we go, that is the track that we have created. It just needs to be tidied just here as well. So I hope you guys like that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you've tried anything similar yourself. I'd love to see what you guys have been up to. If you've tried to create your own forestry areas. If you have photo albums online or even videos, then please do let me know where to find them. I'll take a look. Just creating this little grass blotch area. Again, just to break up this solid blob. And these bits here where we couldn't get manure, then obviously this is going to need to be grassed out as well. Although again, I want to try and do it in a random kind of feel, so it doesn't have just a straight line of grass going around here. It needs to be a bit more sort of randomness to it. Break it up a little bit like this. Oh, and obviously I need to fill this bit in just here as well, but again, I want to try and do this and still leave little bits. There we go. I actually get grass applied in this section this way. I don't know if I can get the cedar at the right angle. Oh, a little bit. I have to attack it just from this way. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that looks better. And then last bit here. Again, we'll just put a nice big splodge. And this I'm just going to grass out completely. Actually, I might leave a little bit just sticking through like that. Break that up just a little bit. with a bit sticking out. So it doesn't look quite so perfect. Yeah, there we go. I like that. Yeah, okay. I think we are ready to start putting some trees in. So I'm going to head back to the store. I'm going to hang on to this cedar for now because we may well need to come back in and touch it up and add some more bits of grass. So we'll hang on to that for now. But we're going to go pick up from the store the tree planter, and we're going to start laying down some trees in the first sort of area. Get that first wave of trees planted and growing. So heading back, you can see I've got the tree planter and a load of saplings on the back as well. Now when it comes to planting on seasons, or at least planting trees on seasons, it is a little bit different to usual. So if we open up the help menu, you can see that we now have a planting distance option at the very top of our list there, and you can choose how many meters apart you want the trees to be. Now I've heard, although obviously I've not planted trees on seasons before, so I can't say for definite, I've heard that if you want your trees to reach maximum height, they need to be 10 meters apart. I don't know if this is true or not, but we're going to try and plant some of these areas at different sort of intervals, perhaps. Maybe see if we can add in some extra trees. I also want to try in certain areas kind of mixing and matching. So the first area that we've got is this area here, this side of the path. And then we've got this area, which is this side of the path. And then we've got this sort of area down here. This is the area we're going to plant today. So some of these trees aren't going to be, you know, all that far apart. What I'm going to do for these ones is I'm going to set a planting distance of 6 meters and see just how far apart it plants the trees around here. So I don't want to get too close to the pathway, and I will no doubt come back in and plant more random blobs of grass around, but I'm going to start planting about here. So let's turn on the tree planter. Now in theory this should plant a tree every 6 meters. This is what 6 meters looks like, which is actually a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. So let's change the planting distance to sort of 8 meters. I want to vary up the planting distance as we move around here as well, so that they're not all just sort of in uniform rows. And I'm also curious if the 8 meters is a total distance of how far we travel, or if it's an actual distance between the trees themselves. That's something I'm curious about. Try plonking another tree just here. That doesn't want to. I think it's measured from the actual distance from the last tree that we plant. That's kind of interesting. So some of these trees are going to be really close together. This could be quite interesting to see how this affects their growth. You know, ones where they are really, really close. And then others are going to be quite well spaced out, as you can see. I've only got 5 trees left in this box already. I'm going to need probably 3 boxes just to do this section down here. Let's try changing the planting distance to 9 meters for this bit. One tree left. Just kind of hoping it would be right here in this bit just here. There it is. Right, so we've planted our first batch of trees. We still need to do this section down here and then the other side of the path. So let's go get some more saplings from the store. So I'm on the second of those 2 pallets you saw at the store, just looking to add a few trees into some of these little random spots that we have. As you can see, really have put quite a few trees down, and they're all kind of randomly positioned and spaced, so some of those are going to be a lot bigger than others once they start growing. I'm kind of really looking forward to seeing how that turns out. This is the problem with seasons when it comes to doing something like this. We don't actually get to see the results, the fruits of our labour, so to speak, for a very long time. I mean, it's going to take days for the grass to even start to grow. And the trees, well, God knows how long it's going to take those to start growing, but quite some time. So I'm just kind of playing around with the planting distances. Some of these are getting planted according to the sort of spacing distance. Some I'm just kind of changing it up as I go along. Like I say, I just want to create that kind of random chaotic feel. I don't want it to all just be nice and simple and straightforward, and I want to have trees in very specific places as well in certain cases. And we've got left to place 3. Let's take another quick drive through. Yeah, let's just plonk them here. Got 2 left. Put the one about here. There it is. And then just drive and see where. Oh, we've got 2 there. They're 3 meters apart, so I'm expecting those to stay pretty small, or at least one of them is going to stay pretty small anyway. Don't know about the other one. But there we go. We have. It's quite hard to see. Let's see if I can just get rid of the help window to make it a little bit easier. You can see there's quite a lot of trees positioned throughout here, and some of them are really close together, as you can see, and some of them are quite spaced out. So we're going to get trees of all different sort of sizes and heights and thicknesses throughout this little area. I'm really quite excited to see how this turns out, but like I say, it's going to be a while until we start to see it come through. So we're going to hang on to the cedar for, as I said, for a little while, but the planter's going to go back, the plough is going to go back. We're not going to need either of those anymore. the cedar will hang on to, so we can go in and add more patches of grass. And we're not going to plant any more trees now until, I don't know, maybe autumn, maybe even winter. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I want to have at a minimum of a season's difference. I've still got this thing turned on. There we go. I want there to be a minimum of a season's difference between each set of trees that get planted, so that we've got time to work with each of these sections here. And as we're going to have maybe 3 sections, I think if we do the next ones around sort of end of autumn, and then the other ones we can do sort of end of winter maybe time, or beginning of spring. We'll see how much time we've got left towards the end of winter. That's assuming actually we might not be able to plant trees. I don't think it's going to tell us on here, but yeah, the ground might possibly be too frozen for trees. I don't know. We can plant poplar anywhere except for, well, actually, look at that. We can actually plant into winter with poplar as well now with the Wales Geo. With the standard seasons, you can't plant at all in winter when it comes to poplar. You can only plant up to the end of autumn, but here we can actually plant up to the very end of winter. Yeah, just those last 3 days that we can't. So that's kind of interesting to see some of those differences. Right, that's pretty much it for this episode then. We've gone in and we've created our custom forest in a bit more depth. We've added in some grass patches. We've really tidied up this this dirt track. We've added in our first batch of trees. We've got 60 trees that were planted here in this forest so far. And that's a good start for us, I think. Enough to be getting on with. As I say, we'll come back later in the year and we'll plant the second batch. And then we'll probably come back again at some point, either the very beginning of next year or the very end of this year, and we'll plant the third and final batch on this, so that we have trees growing at different heights and different stages, you know, throughout the year. Right. Thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll be back with another episode of Deutz Fahrm here on Gorala very soon.